I am Haitian. I love my country. I was born here from my mother that was born here. I am what they call in Haiti by the constitution a Haitian by origin, and I help my country. I'm dedicated to a fight. I will be dead in Haiti. I never want to die someplace else. This is a fight. I know the danger of the fight, but I cannot leave my country because of assassins controlling it. I have to fight to get rid of those assassins. I have to fight to get rid of those assassins.
Powerful words from our subject today. But what up, world? One of our subjects today. But what up, y'all? It's your boy Val. Thanks for joining. Thanks for coming back to the show. We got a good one for you today. That gentleman you heard speaking in the intro, his name is Antoine Izmery. He was a Haitian businessman of Palestinian descent. Born in 1943, he is remembered as a champion for democracy in Haiti. He became one of deposed President Aristide's most outspoken financiers and was ultimately martyred for this when he was assassinated by military police in 1993. Now, one of the first things you might have noticed is that Antoine doesn't look like the average Haitian. That's because his family immigrated to Haiti in the early 1900s from Palestine as part of a larger Levantine migration into the Caribbean that began mid-1800s. Many were Orthodox Christians fleeing religious persecutions from the Ottoman Empire. They quickly assimilated into the Catholic Church. Syrian immigrants came first, followed by the Lebanese as well as Palestinians. The 1948 Nakba led to a further 250,000 Palestinians finding refuge in Haiti. I think that's when Izmery's father, Biscata Izmery, immigrated to Haiti around that time period. Many of these families eventually migrated to the U.S., but an estimated 500,000 Arab Haitians are still present today. Now, just a bit further deep dive into these migrations is a lot of the early comers to Haiti were importers and exporters with business connections throughout Eurasia. So they were also merchants. They were also merchants who did clash, at least in one instance, with the native merchant women of Lacaille, a small city in the southern region of Haiti. In November 1903, just a month before the centennial celebrations of Haitian independence, La Noveliste, Haiti's premier daily at the time, published a striking series of letters from Haitian market women and men, the backbone of the Haitian economy. The first letter was addressed directly to President Pierre Nord Alix. The petitioner alleged two Syrian immigrants, Salomon Genem and Saliba Joseph, of presenting naturalization papers dating back to 1894, originally issued to different individuals in order to obtain their retail licenses. So basically, they were scamming back in the 1890s. Now, fast forwarding back to the 1990s, the Izmerys were one of the richest families in Haiti. Their wealth was built in the food import industry. Antoine, a businessman in his own right, inherited from his father, Biscata Izmery, a sprawling modern warehouse just outside of Port-au-Prince on a busy street called Saint-Marc Boulangerie. A boulangerie is like a French bakery. His shelves were stocked with international foods and goods. Antoine used his money to then back and became one of the loudest advocates for President Aristide. Antoine was arrested many times for his leanings, and he was described as a traitor to his class for his support of Haiti's poor black majority. He and his brother Georges were allowed to peek behind the curtain Haitian elites put up. He could have lived a long and comfortable life if only he remained silent, but he chose to be a catalyst for democracy and transparency.
It is clear that I am a millionaire, but money has never gone to my head or like it does for so many people. But my way of doing was always to act in politics because people have to take part of what is going on in their country.
Oh, Antoine Izmery meant a lot for the struggle. Antoine Izmery was a strong voice. He was the other side of Aristide. Antoine Izmery was this other voice, very important voice that kept telling us, watch out. I am not sure that they really want us to obtain the return of democracy in this country.
Who is Aristide? Aristide is a former priest and organizer who in February 1991 became Haiti's first democratically elected president before being deposed in the military coup d'etat led by Haitian General Raoul Cedras, a coup in which an estimated 10,000 Haitians lost their lives. Now, as a priest, Aristide taught liberation theology, which was a movement in the 1970s, led by black Catholic priests and bishops.
Well, liberation theology was a very significant change in modern history, in fact. For most of its history, the Catholic Church had been the church of the wealthy, the church of the oppressors, the church of the torturers. There was a very dramatic change in the 1960s and the 1970s as it was the Latin American bishops undertook what they called the preferential option for the poor. They committed themselves, large segments of the church committed themselves to working for the needs and interests of the vast majority of the population who are impoverished and suffering and living in semi-slavery and so on. And that had big effects in Central America in particular. It led to very significant organizing efforts, Bible study groups that became self-help groups, that Christian-based communities that turned into peasant associations, unions. There was a real proliferation of popular organizations, very often church-inspired, not entirely, but often church-inspired, led by people of real nobility. I mean, you can't exaggerate the character of these people. Many of them, that set in motion a huge repression, led by the United States, backed by most of Europe, whatever rhetoric they like to say.
The rich of my country, a tiny percentage of our population, sit at a vast table overflowing with good food, while the rest of my countrymen and countrywomen are crowded under that table starving. It is a violent situation. We are all living under a system so corrupt that to ask for a plate of rice and beans every day for every man, woman, and child is to preach a revolution. That is the crime of which I stand accused, preaching food for all men and women.
So after revolutionizing the church in the 70s, Aristide became wildly popular amongst poor and working class Haitians, the 90% black majority. In the 1980s, he began organizing and speaking out against the Duvalier regime, which in short ruled, because the Duvaliers, we can do a whole video on the Duvaliers, but in short, ruled Haiti from 1957 until 1986, when the younger Jean-Claude Duvalier fled the country for France with his wife and a reported $800 million in Louis Vuitton luggage. So 5 years after the fall of this Duvalier regime, elections were organized under Bertha Pascal, who herself deserves her own video. She was, just briefly, she was the first woman of African descent to be president in the West, I think outside of Africa in general. But her administration, with help from the international community, organized elections in the early 90s in Haiti. Marc Bazin quickly became the poster child of Western interests. His IMF/World Bank friendly leanings all but guaranteed Haiti would be a safe haven for foreign investors. U.S. President Jimmy Carter visited Haiti in December 1990 to campaign for Bazin, after successfully installing Joaquin Bolijar in a very close election in DR. Bolijar was the incumbent and former VP for the infamous Dominican dictator Rafael Trujillo. His opponent, Juan Bosch, would forever protest the credibility of that election. Meanwhile, Aristide's popularity continues to grow amongst the young Haitians. His movement, La Valasse Coil for the Great Flood, caught the wind of the people, and Bazin's supporters were overwhelmed at the polls. Amidst rising concerns of corruption, concentration of wealth, widespread poverty, Aristide's campaign was able to mobilize voters and won 67% of the vote. I think this is a good time to discern the difference between Aristide's first term and his later terms, because yes, he was deposed, but then he would be reinstated, then rinse repeat, believe it or not. But I think it is important to discern, because Aristide's first term is really seen as a kind of a honeymoon period for people that love Haitians, because he was doing a lot. He had the support of the church, the singers, the artists, the journalists who were hard on previous administrations were almost all in support of Aristide, and he did a lot, which pissed off a lot of people, i.e. why he was deposed. Before I list all the great things he did, I just want to preface by saying his later administrations have been accused, because we're not really going to get into his later administrations in this video, but I do want to say that his later administrations have been accused of corruption and even violence, ironically. But in the 90s, Aristide seemingly almost can do no wrong.
I voted for Pertitude, for Lavalas, for the Worcester. I voted for the situation to change.
Bazin is bad merchandise. They spent $6 million to get him elected, which we would have had to pay back in Haitian money.
He did put into effect a plan to double the national minimum wage. He also initiated systems of Social Security for workers. He built 195 new primary schools and 104 secondary schools, almost tripling the number of secondary schools nationwide. It's reported that up to 72% of school-aged children were enrolled at the time. Lavalas-led literacy campaigns ultimately helped raise the adult literacy rate from 33 to 55%. These programs were opposed by Haitian elites, USAID, and the American government in general, specifically the CIA.
The U.S. policy was overwhelmingly very coherent and very clear in regard to terror against the Haitian popular movement. The U.S. supported the terror. Colonel Patrick Collins of the DIA encouraged Constant to form the group that later became the FRAP. Constant was placed on the CIA payroll. He received regular cash payments from the CIA. He met on a regular basis with Camborian, the CIA station chief, as he was carrying out the assassinations. Colonel Michel Francois was also on the CIA payroll. So was Francois's brother Evans. The U.S. was shipping in weapons to the FRAP. Many of the weapons going via Santo Domingo, where Evans Francois was located. The U.S. had a very clear, systematic policy throughout of supporting the forces of terror in Haiti, while at the same time, back in Washington, twisting Aristide's arm. And this was not the CIA acting as a rogue, but the CIA carrying out the overall U.S. policy, which was to pressure Aristide by backing terror on the ground.
I do think it's important to note, though, that like when I say like specifically the CIA is because and USAID is because even though there were programs that the U.S. programs that worked to further dismantle the autonomy of Haitian people, there were also U.S.-led programs, specifically by the Black Caucus, that were put into effect to help Haitian people. So, like, when I say the U.S. was against the Haiti, it wasn't like the entirety of the U.S., obviously, but there were specific programs from the specific departments. He also demanded the Duvalierists and the oligarchs pay their taxes and relinquish their monopoly of Haiti's economy.
Within an economic plan, whatever its level of perfection, can we allow La Couronne Brewery to owe the state 535,619 good 66? Can we permit the National Brewery to owe the state 4,999,956 good 7? Can we allow Fabnac to owe the state 9,189,844 good 97? And finally, to be brief, can we permit Hasco to owe the state 15,625,625 good 90?
Just say what we don't want. We don't want Aristide to tell us that we have to pay our taxes. We don't want Aristide to say that these people need justice, social equity. We don't want anybody to tell us, or at least not Aristide, that we must share.
They did not like this, and 7 months after being inaugurated, Aristide was driven into exile by the military and their elite Western backers, who have ruled the country for over 200 years and would not tolerate any loss of their traditional rights to terror and exploitation.
On September 30, 1991, Aristide was ousted in the military coup. The full story of that coup is not yet on the public record, but it's clear that although publicly the U.S. was saying Aristide ought to be restored, privately the U.S. was pleased with the coup. Within hours of the coup, the U.S. Embassy was praising the Haitian officers who had carried it out as a professional group, and they were disparaging Aristide, saying he was an autocrat, he'd brought it on himself.
We were on the streets when the whole coup happened. Started that Monday morning. And I was on the street and I saw innocent people being shot at. I went to the morgue, I got shot at. I just saw a lot of, it was like a massacre. It was a massacre. And to hear people, politicians, wannabe politicians say that nothing happened is a disgrace.
Determined not to give up after the coup on September 30th, 1991, Antoine founded the KOMVB, which is an acronym that translates to come together to verify who's to blame for the coup. So they're an organization which attempted to discover and publicize the events surrounding the 1991 coup and see the return of democratic government. Antoine would later publish a list naming people and the families who were behind Aristide's coup, right? Which in this list, him publishing this list would ultimately lead to his demise.
Général Sidras, Michel François, Jean-Jacques Honorat, Marc Bazin, Major Valmé, and all those other ones, together with the private sector that financed that coup, should be in jail and prosecuted for having killed over 10,000 people in Haiti during that coup.
Now, Antoine was murdered soon after he published this list. On September 11th, 1993, plainclothes goons controlled by the interim government's Haitian police and military forces, FLOP is their acronym, were harassing Antoine at a mass he had organized to commemorate the 5th anniversary of the massacre at Saint-Jean Bosco, which is Aristide's old church.
During the St. John Bosco massacre, the Makouts came with red handkerchiefs on their arms, with big knives in their hands. A pregnant woman in church was stabbed. They stabbed her in the belly.
Frank Romain has always been a Duvalierist. 100% of his blood is Duvalierist. He's the number one Duvalierist Makout criminal. Someone who burned a church with a lot of people in it.
Le jour de cette affaire de Saint-Jean Bosco, depuis, ça s'est passé un dimanche.
The day of that Saint-Jean Bosco thing, it was a Sunday. I was out of town. I came back when I heard about it. No, sir. I did not participate in it.
So fast forward back to the 90s now. Antoine has organized a commemoration for these people. This is after Aristide has been coup d'etat. Aristide was already elected, he's been coup d'etat. At this commemoration, the thugs come to harass Antoine. The thugs reportedly hurled insults at Antoine and threatened his life before the vigil. Antoine was unfazed. He was all too used to these intimidation tactics because his brother, Georges, was killed less than a year prior, right in front of their boulangerie on a crowded street in Port-au-Prince.
And we closed the door, and my car was just in front over here. And when everything was finished, I went into my car, and George crossed the street from over here to the corner to go to his car. And arriving there, I already left, and maybe 2 minutes after I left, he was shot and killed with a bullet just by the stomach over there, and 2 in the back. There were a lot of street passerby, street merchants, street vendors. They were all there and they saw it. But everyone, as you know, with the state of repression that we are living here right now, will not speak. They are afraid to be killed themselves. The police station is just 300 foot where my brother was killed. We know that those killers went to hide themselves into that police station.
Today, in the name of George, I speak for all the disappeared, for the poor, the students, journalists, peasants, workers, peaceful citizens. To understand this outrageous crime beyond the pain and the emotion, we must understand that they want to transform Haiti before our eyes into a vast prison, an immense cemetery. Stand up. Become conscious. Continue to fight. Don't stop. Oppose that government. They are assassins. The criminals have struck down someone well-known, of good heart, who made his money through hard work. Always there are senseless killings. Since September 30th, the army has started again with its old ways.
So now it's Antoine's life being threatened. The assailants soon surrounded the cathedral. Antoine refused to run, while numerous journalists were beaten and detained by the head of Port-au-Prince's feared anti-gang unit, Jacques Jones and Michel Francois. Antoine was taken outside, forced to kneel, then shot in the head in front of the church of Sacré-Cœur. It was broad daylight. His family was present as the priest kneeled upon his lifeless body, hand on his shoulder, reading his last rites. Antoine's last sentiments was that of defiance towards his assassins, the same way he lived. Now,
Izmery's assassination was a devastating blow to the popular movement, to democratic forces in Haiti, because it sent the message that even the highest profile, the most influential person is subject to execution if they dare to stand up, if they say the wrong thing. So it seems that Izmery, using his own sources, he was in the export-import business. He had extensive sources on the docks. He had connections throughout the business world. He knew what was going on in Haiti. Izmery was able to learn really the two key elements of the secret U.S. policy in Haiti, the fact that U.S. intelligence was working with Constant and the FRAP, and the fact that these clandestine arms shipments were coming in to the Haitian coup regime. He learned these facts in the months before his assassination.
Il était devenu beaucoup plus... Il n'était pas agressif, au contraire, et il disait la vérité, rien que la vérité. Et ces gens-là, la vérité blesse, malheureusement. Pourquoi l'ont-ils tué? Pourquoi? Parce qu'il y a une raison.
Antoine was murdered soon after he published this list. So we're going to play for you him reading this list.
Jean-Claude Nadal is involved in the coup. And Oriol Michel, in whose house There was a meeting that day of the 29th of September for the coup d'etat. The family Meuse is another big family over here. That was the prête-nom, a nickname for the Duvalier. Not nickname, but for legal papers, they put the Meuse name in there. And that's how Meuse started. A Brant, a Murat, a Saliba, a Moscoso, a Bigio, a Nadal, a famille Accra, the famille Meuse, or a Saint-Hubert, the Madsen, or a Cassis, or whatever else it may be. We have also Clifford Brunt and his sons that I have to add to the list. They paid out money to the military to be able to make the payroll after the coup. Nessim Moura is a guy that was a really active Duvalier supporter, particularly Jean-Claude Duvalier. You have here Ramses Haloun and Romeo Haloun. They are two brothers. Ramses is the younger brother, but Ramses used to work with the Cassis, whom I see also in the list. And Romeo is supposed to be the commercial informant for General Raoul Cedras, together with another one I don't see in the list, Hugh Paris, who used to smuggle all the Mercedes-Benz stolen in Miami. And they are commercial advisors for Raoul Cedras, the general. And one not never to forget is Gilbert Bigio, someone that is said to have made more than $40 million in a few years with Jean-Claude Duvalier.
As you noticed, there was one name that was more prominent than all the others. That is Gilbert Bigio. And let me introduce Gilbert Bigio to you guys, because this is where it kind of starts to get interesting, and you can see the parallels between Israel and Palestine and what's happening in Haiti to this day. Now, Gilbert Bigio was born in 1935, so him and Antoine are around the same age. He's a little bit older than Antoine, but he was born in 1935. He's a Haitian businessman of Syrian descent. He's the first Haitian billionaire, richest man in the Caribbean, period. Formerly an honorary consul to Israel in Haiti. So I think he flies to this day. His family flies the only Israeli flag in Haiti. Right? So now you're starting to see how you have on one side of this conflict, you have this Palestinian Haitian person. And on the other side of this conflict, you have who Bigio is not Israeli, because Israel wasn't a state when Bigio was born, but he is a Zionist. Very clearly self-proclaimed Zionist. His family of Sephardic Jews, originally from Livorno, Italy, but in 1896, his grandfather, Isaac Jacques Bigio, immigrated to Haiti. Soon after, Charles Shalom Bigio, Gilbert's father, followed via Aleppo, where the family had been for several generations trading commodities between the Far Eastern Europe, between Asia and Europe. Soon after arriving, Isaac founded a cotton gin house to supply a family garment factory back in Manchester, England. Gilbert, stepping out on his own, founded the GB Group in 1972. He left the historical activities of his family to kind of do his own thing. In 1972, now this is Jean-Claude Duvalier, I'm pretty sure, regime. He reportedly brokered arms deals between Israel and the Duvalier regime to gain favor with the Duvaliers. So he literally, the very bullets that killed Antoine, he literally brokered deals from Israel, arms deals from Israel, including Uzis, which is an Israeli invention. It's an Israeli product designed and produced in Israel. Uzi was an Israeli person. Uzi is his last name. Bigio, being Haitian, brokered deals bringing Uzis to Haiti. Bringing Uzis to Haiti, and was reportedly still receiving commission on the very bullets that killed Izmery. This is how Bigio cut his teeth in the 70s with the Duvaliers. In exchange for this, The GB Group was rewarded with a virtually unregulated market which had high consumer prices and no competition, effectively an oligopoly in gasoline and kerosene sales, right? And I just want to take this time to also state how this is not capitalism, because a lot of people would describe a billionaire like Bigio as a hyper-capitalist, but this is not even capitalism, because capitalism encourages competition. You're not allowed to have a monopoly. You're not allowed to corner a market in capitalism. That's anti-capitalism. These are antitrust laws that we have to prevent these things. And so this isn't even capitalism. This is a complete perversion of capitalism. But in 1981, GB Group was given exclusive monopoly on edible oil importations and processing. Again, this is not capitalism. This is a perversion of capitalism. Furthermore, allegedly, he helped finance Abinader, there's currently the president in Dominican Republic, allegedly helped finance Abinader's campaign in DR. This is a big controversy brewing in DR present day, where you can go and see Dominican politicians calling out the BG Group and Gilbert Bigio by name because of his influence in their politics. And it's not just in DR, he's in Jamaica too. He's expanded, he's still alive, he's expanded, and he has his fingerlings in many economies throughout the Caribbean and the US. He was recently sanctioned by Canada in December 2022 for his quote-unquote involvement in arms trafficking and human rights violations in Haiti. Right? So this was in 2022. I think that's just before Jovenel Moïse was murdered. Backing up a little bit, he was sanctioned in the 90s by the U.S. government and his family for their support in the coup against Aristide. He apparently is linked to Epstein. Bigio apparently bought a Mercedes Maybach from Jeff Epstein in Paris when Epstein's estate was selling off assets so that they could cover legal costs and pay out victims' families. He allegedly routinely avoids taxes, particularly on import duties. That type of stuff almost seems like you can't even mention when you're talking about like just the dysfunction this person is bringing to that small island nation. Now I think this is a good time to differentiate the difference between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism, because this has nothing to do with his, and I think that's why the fact that he's a Middle Eastern. This has nothing to do with the fact that he's a Middle Eastern Haitian. I think this is important. That's why I thought it was so good to juxtapose him with Antoine, somebody who's also Middle Eastern Haitian and who also inherited a lot of wealth in his family, but kind of chose to do much different things with his life. So again, it's not all the Middle Eastern Haitians, and I think this is important to discern, because the same thing happened in the revolution back in 1804, where people were saying Haitians were killing all white people. It wasn't all white people, it was the slavers that they were killing, who happened to be almost all white. So, because we know this because we have entire Polish legions in Haiti whose ancestors are largely still in Haiti to this day, who fought with Haitians against the French and the Americans at one point, and all this and that. So it wasn't all whites back then, and it's not all Jews or all Middle Eastern, all Semites, all Middle Eastern Haitians, okay? It's a very specific group of them, and I don't even think that Bigio, he's reported as not even being very religious, so he's ethnic Jew, yes, but it's not. It's not that. Like, I just want to make that point, that this is about anti-Zionism, not anti-Semitism. And just to be fair, I do want to, because I think I'm going to say some more crazy things about Bigio, but I do want to say some good things that he's helped facilitate in Haiti. After the 2010 earthquake, he helped set up Israeli field hospitals in Haiti, which he did, and they were some of the first boots on the ground after the earthquake. He is top 5 largest taxpayers in Haiti, the single largest private contributor to the state, but it doesn't translate as Haitians get by on less than anyone else in the entire hemisphere. So just to further drive home the part that, I mean, he self-identifies as a Zionist. Israel to us is the motherland, it's the rock, it's how we identify ourselves. How does this relate to present day? Because it's the same. Bigio's still alive. The Bigio Group is still one of the largest corporations in the entire Caribbean. Jovenel Moïse was another. If there's anybody who captured the breath of the Haitian people, similar to how Aïsti did in the early 90s when Aïsti was first coming up, it was Jovenel. Jovenel was somebody else. When you listen to him speak, he's speaking for the poor black majority. And Jovenel was assassinated. All the dysfunction you see in Haiti, most of it with the gangs, quote unquote, it started after Jovenel Moïse, our president, was assassinated. And I believe the same people who are against Aïsti then are the same people who are against Moïse now. And they're using their same old tactics. It's so clear. And I do think it's interesting how you have this conflict in Israel-Palestine and just kind of watching how it plays out in the Caribbean and in Haiti. It's almost as if Haiti's a proxy. It's almost as if Haiti's a proxy for this conflict that's happening in Eurasia. So, in conclusion, nothing ever came of Antoine's killers. He was just one of the 10,000 people killed during this coup. Justice is an abstract concept in modern day Haiti. Well, I don't want to say nothing came of it, because what did come of it was a lot of international press. After the Izmery brothers were assassinated, you had a lot of international interest, press, seeing into this conflict. America's hand was pretty obvious. So in a lot of ways, I think it's interesting too how America's kind of able to be on both sides of this conflict, because America did kind of usher in the return of Aïsti, but again, his later administrations are marred in a way that I think his first administration was not.
The question is, what kind of attitude will come back? Huh? What kind? The Haitians say we don't want attitude without his teeth, without his language, without this tongue, without this wonderful vision of the world, Haitian world, with justice, equity, and so on. Justice for everybody, equity, and so on. This vision of a society based on respect, based on law. But a attitude, prisoner of forces that don't want really democracy for people, but want the status quo with the name democracy.
Back in Washington, people at the White House were telling Aristide, look, as Lawrence Pizzullo described it to me, look, FRAP is taking over. They're the dominant force on the ground. You have to make a deal with us. The U.S. was making two fundamental demands. First, that he agreed to a U.S. military occupation of Haiti. Second, that he accept the World Bank, IMF, structural readjustment program for Haiti, which was the antithesis of the popular movement platform that Aristide had run on. He had run on redistributing wealth downward toward the Haitian poor. This plan redistributes it upward. General Cedras himself reportedly worked with U.S. intelligence, and there were a whole host of other killers at various levels who were working for U.S. intelligence. For example, Marcel Morissac, an attaché who worked for Francois out of the anti-gang unit, he told investigators that he was carried on the U.S. payroll. He was implicated in 3 of the major assassinations. He was formally charged in the assassination of Justice Minister Guy Mallory, and was also being investigated for a purported role in the assassinations of Izmery and Father Jean-Marie Vincent. As these assassinations were going on, as these arsons, these rapes, these massacres were happening, as Aristide saw this terror on the ground, saw his people being killed off by the FRAP, he reconsidered his opposition to the U.S. demands. He had a gun to his head figuratively, just as his supporters had guns to their heads literally. It was outright political extortion. So Aristide made the deal. He signed on the dotted line.
Damn, now that's cold bleed. That's cold-blooded. I had some other stuff I wanted to say, honestly, after that, just talking about some of the little bit of justice that was had on behalf of the 10,000 people, countless people who lost their lives in this conflict in the 90s. But after that last clip, it's just like, I just felt like that was such a good place to end, as tragic and sad as it is, you know. And there's so much more I could say about Moise and how all this that's happening in the 90s is still happening to this day. And like I said, Bigio's still alive and in a lot of ways still has his hand in the pot. But this video is already longer than I wanted it to be, so I guess we'll just have to save that for another video. This is obviously a rough draft I'm recording here in my living room, but I think I am gonna kind of post it to YouTube, and so just preemptively to kind of see what the fields are. But you know, so to our YouTube audience, just leave in the comments like what video you want to see us cover next, like what topic you want to see us cover next, whether you want us to do the Duvalier video, the Eartha Pascal video, or you want us to do one on Moise and Jimmy Shaze barbecue, and just kind of bring it straight to present day, or just, you know, just comment your thoughts. And I know there's a lot of people out there, anybody who would get to 40 minutes on a video like this. I know a lot of you guys probably already knew some of this stuff, but surely some of it was new too. So yeah, just I'm curious and interested and looking forward to seeing what the comment section is going to look like on a video like this. So thanks again, signing off.
Fuck the system, know your history, cup. Fuck the system, know your history, cup. Fuck the system, know your history, cup.